All right, welcome on back, everyone, for another episode of First CSP, the channel dedicated to bringing you the first council shoulder patch issued from each council in Scouting America, both past and present. Today, we're going to take a look at Golden Empire 47 out of California. This council was originally formed in 1937 as a name change from Sacramento area and lasted all the way up until this year, in 2026, when they just recently voted to change their name to Greater California Council. Obviously, the Greater California Council has yet to produce their first CSP, but we are on the lookout, and hopefully we'll bring that to you as soon as we're able to obtain one. For now, let's take a look at Golden Empire over here on the patch table. We have the T1 with its red border, white inner border, yellow background, dark blue letters, white California and Nevada states in the red pan, and it is specifically determined by the size of the patch itself. So this is 62 millimeters top to bottom by 136 millimeters from left to right. This one is a gauze cloth back for the T1. This was done as a smaller production run, so it can be a bit harder to find. One of the other challenges associated with the Golden Empire T1 is that the T2 is exceptionally similar. We actually held off on recording this video until we have most recently been able to add a T2, because I think the comparison and being able to bring you those side by side here in video format is going to be helpful for collectors, especially that want to try and determine the differences in the early issues. Now, Golden Empire follows the tradition of many of the Western older CSPs, where the first one comes out and it's very big. I'm thinking Mount Lassen, I'm thinking Ventura, and then the next one is produced looking very, very similar and just happens to be a bit smaller. That is the case here as well. So I'll try and move this up a little bit. I only have so much screen space. But here is an example of the T2. Now, by description, it's going to seem very similar with its red border, white inner border, yellow background, dark blue letters, white California, Nevada in the red pan. The difference now is going to be the sizing. We get 137, so slightly longer, which you can kind of tell here in the picture. But from top to bottom, it is only 58 millimeters, not the 62. So generally, if you have a ruler with you, you can just go off of that 60. If it's under 60, it's going to be a T2. If it's over 60 millimeters, it's going to be the T1. A couple other things that I've noted in looking at these side by side in person. We're going to get a slightly bolder font, it looks like, in the T1s. One of the areas that's easiest to see is actually to look at these eyes. So you see the eye in Council, it's fairly thick. We get a thinner eye in the text font that's used in the second production, the T2. Additionally, we get a little bit of a lighter blue here in the T1. We get a little bit of a darker blue in the T2. One of the other things that stands out is the difference in the border color. They're both just listed as red in the collecting guides, but you're going to see a much brighter red in the T1 that almost borders on that kind of orange red, and you get a much richer, deep red in the T2. Taking a look at comparing them on the backs, again, both are gauze cloth backs. It's kind of early style CSPs. You can see a little bit of that distinction between the colors of blue for the thread that's used. It's a little darker here, it's a little bit lighter. That doesn't stick out to me as much as the border colors in red. Get a much brighter red on the T1, a much darker red on the T2. But we're very excited to have both the T1 and T2 just because they are so close, and one of our focuses of the channel is to try and help collectors with identification. What are the differences when the issues look so similar to one another? So hopefully being able to kind of see these side by side is helpful. Obviously, one of the biggest things with the size differences, you're going to get so much more space around the text than you do with the T2. So it's another, certainly an aspect of the T1 that makes it stand out a bit more. Now, the T1 and T2 were the only twills that they produced here at the beginning. They then moved to the S3, which is a solidly embroidered patch. And we can take a look at a couple of those here as well. In the more recent collecting guides, The S3 is just listed as a single issue, but in the older collecting guides, this was divided into S3A and S3B. The S3A has a red border, white inner border. It is bright yellow for the background, dark blue letters. You've got the California and Nevada, not quite illustrated as well as the T1 and the T2 because he's got a little smaller. And it does say that it's got a thin shovel, and it is quite a bit thinner than when you looked back at the T1 or the T2 used a much thicker shovel. The S3B, instead of having the bright yellow background, is listed as a dull background. Ours happens to be used, but you can at least see the differences in colors there. The next one that they had was the S4. The S4 added the fleur-de-lis. The S4 also changed the shovel and pickaxe to red, so those are going to stand out quite a bit. But the first three, basically T1, T2, and the S3s, all had the same imagery, except the S3s obviously are now a solidly embroidered patch. This first one does appear that it was glued onto something at some point, and our S3B is a little bit floppy. Both of these use clear lock stitching on them. We can see slight differences again in the blues that were used as far as the lettering goes. But just kind of gives you an example. In the first few issues, they really kind of held with the same aesthetic and imagery and just carried it through the subsequent CSPs. We'll put the T1 and the T2, as much as we can fit it, back up here on the screen to finish out this episode. That T1, really one of our favorites. Obviously, our family heritage coming from California, so a lot of the California issues are super fun for us. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of First CSP. We'll be back again tomorrow with another brand new episode. Until then, thank you all for tuning in. We hope you have a great rest of your day.